Hello, everyone. I'm Ramesh from Freshworks, and welcome to this webinar that's hosted by the Freshworks team. And we are very excited to have all of you as part of this conversation. And we look forward to taking you through this session that will hopefully give you a lot of insights around how you can grow with speed and quality in 2021. So we are glad to have a couple of wonderful speakers with us, Susana and Kat. I'll take you through their profiles and background and how and the fantastic experiences they are going to share over the next hour. And I'm sure that will be an extremely enriching experience for all of you. I think what we can also do is that I'll ensure that if you have any questions. I think the audience that we have right now is not large enough. So I would like for this to be a lot more engaged because I can take in every question you have and we can actually go into a lot of detail and depth. So for every attendee who's here, I think you will almost receive personalized inputs and you can receive personalized conversations around this entire topic, as well as anything else that you would like to know more about customer service. See, I'd like to keep this very open and very freewheeling so that we all go home quite enriched in terms of customer service and how we can grow despite all the challenges that we are going through right now. So that is the introduction. Welcome once again to everyone. Before we start, I'd like to introduce you to our panelists. That's Kat Olches and Susana De Souza. Instead of me talking about them, I'd rather have them talk about themselves. So I'll stop sharing my screen so that you can actually look at them, and we can keep this quite interactive in nature. So yeah, Susana and Kat, welcome on board. And yeah, please, if you could introduce yourselves, that'll be great. Hey, Susana, you could unmute. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Ramesh. And hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm very, very happy to be here with the lovely Cats and the Freshworks team. So a quick intro. My name is Susana. I'm based in Lisbon, Portugal, and I'm the Senior Manager of Support at Loom. And what is Loom, you might ask? Well, basically, it comes down to video messaging for work. It's that simple. You can record your screen, your voice, and your face to create videos that you can then share immediately with your team and customers. Back in 2017, I was the first support hire at Loom. Now we have a team of 15 really, really amazing people supporting our 13 million users worldwide. Our focus today is to create a support experience that is efficient, educational, and human, both at scale with our free users, but also individually with our enterprise customers. So that's me. Thank you so much for having me today.
That's lovely. Thanks, Susana. Kat?
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. I am Kat. I too am very happy to be here with the Freshworks team. I'm happy to have met Susana. I am a Loom fangirl, so in case you didn't know. When this started, I was primarily with OpenPath, so I headed our support and enablement team. So we've expanded to customer experience, but I've also kind of shifted my focus. So I am the head of user experience at my startup, Gated, gated.email. So if you don't know or have not heard of Gated, it is a email solution that basically prevents any emails that you don't want or don't matter to you from getting into your inbox unless, they donate to a charity you support. So it's a good way to only see the emails you want to see and, help a good cause as well. So happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk about all things customer support today.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kat, and thank you, Susana. And to begin on a lighter note, I was actually having some issues with my earphones, and just 5 minutes before Kat fixed that for me. So I've already had my outcome for the day. So thanks for that, Kat. I think that was really useful. Right. Okay. To start with, let me just give you some context around what we want to talk about today. So one thing that we believe is that 2021 will be is already right. It has been the year of change, and what we are noticing is that more than 60% of consumers across the world, and even more so in North America, are trying new brands due to economic pressures, store closing, and changing priorities. So these customers are now going online in their search for better and safer ways to transact with businesses. And that translates to tremendous growth for companies that provide excellent customer service. So what we're trying to do is, how are we going to look at this new scenario where, because customers are now going online in their search for better and safer ways to transact with businesses, it has now blurred the lines between sales and service, with every customer service interaction now becoming an opportunity to sell. In fact, some of our clients are seeing 70% of sales related queries come through customer service channels. So given this entire context, given the shift that we are seeing around customer service also becoming very critical to growth, I wanted to ask the panelists here about, how does your organization currently view sales and service? Do you find that increasingly customer service agents are doubling up as salespeople and guiding prospects towards purchasing your products or services? And does this create the potential for customer service itself as a profit center, right? So I just wanted to, before Kat and Susana, before you answer this, I just wanted one quick thing I wanted to do is, I need to run a poll to just ensure that I wanted to get a sense of who our audience is and where do they come from. So just one thing I want to check out is, yeah, the audience, there's this poll that we wanted to run. If you could just let us know, I know that there aren't too many of you, but I think this will also give the opportunity for us to make it quite personal and interesting for each and every one of you. I can assure you of that. All right. That's great. We have 80% of you responded, and I think majority of you are from customer support, and there is a small representation from IT as well. That's great. I think we'll ensure that we address all aspects around whatever is relevant to you as well, right? So thanks again. That was the initial context that I wanted to set up. In fact, what we can do now is we can go back to the question that I wanted to call out, which is around, how does your organization currently view sales and service? And do you find that customer service personnel are having to double up as salespeople and having to guide prospects towards purchasing decisions? So let me stop screen share, and I'll have Susana and Kat come up on the larger screen and share their thoughts. Susana, why don't you go first?
Sure. Thanks, Ramesh. So I think that's a great question. And there's no doubt that support departments are often seen as cost centers. That is accurate. The resources that we spend in support are definitely a cost to the business. There's no way around that. However, the message here is that being a cost center and a growth center are not mutually exclusive, right? So at the end of the day, a support experience shouldn't just be about solving an issue. It's more so an opportunity to help customers discover more about your product, more about your service. At Loom specifically, we're not just fixing issues, we're preventing new ones from happening in the future. So the way that our team is seeing is as a valuable driver of revenue. So every interaction that we have with free users or paid customers is an opportunity. And you may ask, an opportunity for what? So opportunity to help and advocate for our customers, opportunity to share user feedback to shape how the product grows, opportunity to upsell new features and create additional streams of revenues, referring back to the question. And at the end of the day, it's really the opportunity to create customers for life. To give you a concrete example, if a Loom customer contacts our support team, our first mission obviously is to delight them with a fix to the issue that they reported. But then if we're successful, we then have the opportunity to help the customer discover more use cases and unlock additional value, whether that is by upselling, whether that is just by explaining more use cases or features. The value is the most important thing here. We see that, or we believe that our support experience is a key competitive advantage, and that sets Loom apart from its competitors.
Got it. Kat, how do you approach this?
It's same sentiment as Susana, really. If you've probably look back, right, during the pandemic, and you notice as teams are being, scaled, you'll see that the sales team is very likely scaled quicker than the support team. And like what Susana said, it has to do with us being, you know, a non-revenue generating team.
Right.
It's even opened doors for, you know, experienced leaders to create a revenue stream, you know, like myself, having created an enablement team as a branch of support to start generating revenue, right? You start getting creative on how you can impact the business. To your point about, you know, how does this affect the organization? Really, we need to start, it needs to be a culture shift, right? As we start thinking of support, sales is in the customer journey, they bring the customers in. Support should be what makes the customers stay. So I will refer to OpenPath because it's such it's an access control, which is a dinosaur industry, right? They've been here forever. You hear of other companies who's been around for years on years doing the same thing. And it's not one of those industries where customer service or good customer support, you know, is the number one goal. So for us being able to deliver that, it does, you know, allow our customers to make the choice of, you know what, do I buy product A that's similar to product B, but product A has a good support team, whereas product B wouldn't. So it's definitely a deciding factor for people to purchase, but it's also a factor for people to want to stay and help you grow your business and spend more. You know, you want to enforce evangelism from your customers.
Got it. And are there expectations changing? Is it something that in terms of how we are, I think personally, I undertake transactions online. I speak with support executives. It's almost like when I go to a supermarket, somebody might walk up to me and ask, hey, do you want something, right? Now that is a sales activity there, right? Do you try and think about it that way? Is there an opportunity to do proactive support where you actually find opportunities where you could cross-sell or upsell or have proactive conversations with your customers instead of waiting for them to come to you with a problem? And that typically has the aspect of sales and growth associated with it as well. Is that something that's an expectation that's being created, or is that a conversation that's even being had right now in your organization?
It's definitely being had. It was actually not too long ago, you know, now with everything opening up, most businesses are experiencing hypergrowth, you know, with everybody wanting to use stuff again, travel again, purchase again. So we're at a point where, okay, do we staff right now, or do we make the most out of our resources? This is where those creative solutions come up, where, you know, be more efficient with what you have, create proactive solutions, you know, solve the problem before it even becomes a problem. That way you don't need to necessarily staff to support the volume. You just have to make smarter decisions so your team doesn't struggle.
Right. Susana?
Yeah, absolutely. Work smarter so that you can then reinvest resources like time, right? You can't just make up time, but you can reinvest it if you save that. I'm in a similar boat as Kat. I 100% agree with everything that she said. And at Bloom, we're definitely having the conversation around how can we be more proactive and how can we tie that dollar amount to our support team and just like help with upgrades and revenue as well. And the one thing that has stood out to me is really during those conversations, we definitely wanted to make it as seamless and not forceful at all, right? So there should be an experience where if you have that conversation with the customer, it should be completely natural. You shouldn't be like, hey, do you want to upgrade? You want to upgrade? Do you want to upgrade? We don't want that at all.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of like what's been really great about these conversations is that we're all aligned on that sort of ambition.
Got it. So you don't want to be forceful. You want to be, it needs to flow organically, right?
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Got it. And would you say that, Susana, I think you've had experience working in B2C as well, and our audience, there might be people who are in B2B support, while there might be some who might be in B2C support. Do you see a difference in how support would operate in these two, particularly post-pandemic? Are there any shifts that you might be seeing?
In terms of the types of service or support we offer to B2C versus B2B.
B2B, right?
Yeah, I mean, not an extreme shift. There is a differentiator on the type of support a B2B end customer expect versus a B2C customer, right? And also the volume would be slightly different. So for example, because with OpenPath, there's a B2B and a B2C side of the business. So B2B is a bit more, the installers that buy our products and go to the buildings and install the access control system. So they're a bit more tech savvy. They need a bit more hand holding. That's why we have phone support for them, because they need a bit more one-on-one. Versus the B2C are the end users that are using the app. So they don't necessarily have access to a portal. They just have the app and they, need to access the door. So the support for that is slightly different as well, because we could create a bit more automation. So, error codes that are specific to not being able to unlock, and we can tell them what that code is exactly and refer them to a knowledge-based article, because it's a common driver or what have you. So and that's not the same as, what you would do on the B2B side of things.
Yeah. Susana, you worked at Airbnb, I think, in the past, right? And how would you compare the world there versus the world you are in today? Do you think there's a difference?
I mean, two very different worlds. It's very different supporting a software, application, a SaaS product in this case, to, answering the phone and the other person on the other side, or the person on the other side is a family and they're waiting to check into their Airbnb. It's midnight and they're locked out, and there's more urgency. It's a very sensitive matter there.
Exactly.
So absolutely two different worlds, but the foundation is the same, right? You want to deliver extremely impactful support that not only solves issues, but that is educational and that creates customers for life. So even though very different worlds, you can apply hospitality support to SaaS support and just create fantastic experiences where you're delighting customers over and over again.
Got it. So would you say that in B2C, do you think speed is more critical when it comes to B2C versus, say, in B2B?
I mean, honestly, speed is important for both. I think, it just helps. Everyone wants to have, a great support experience. And part of that great support experience is not feeling blocked, So if you feel blocked, there's time that goes by. And the whole point of having a support experience is to unblock customers. So whether that is, you're outside an Airbnb and you can't lock in, or your, Loom recorder is not recording any videos, you have a goal. And if you're not meeting your goal and my support team is not helping you, the speed factor plays a huge part into the satisfaction of the customer there.
Got it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Which leads me perfectly into the next question I have, that I think at the end of the day, what we are also trying to do is ensure that it's not enough to provide great support. It also is important to provide great support at speed, right? Because time is money. And therefore, in fact, what we also did was at Freshworks, we have a customer service platform called Freshdesk. And we actually analyzed over 107 million customer interactions, and we found that speed of service is the critical factor in determining customer satisfaction. In fact, while everyone recognizes the importance of faster customer service, organizational roadblocks hold most companies back. A few examples of such roadblocks are how organizations invest in sales and marketing for growth while saving costs on customer service, leading to staffing crunches, extended wait times, and backlogs. So have you thought about this? What are the challenges or roadblocks you've faced in trying to bring faster customer service to the forefront of your organization's priorities? Maybe Kat, you want to go first?
Yeah. So we're we're in this day and age where everybody wants immediate gratification. Right. So we've talked about this previously, where with speed, it's not something you can fake. It's not something you can filter. You're either fast or you're not, right? And regardless of how nice you are or how, courteous you are talking with a customer, if you replied slowly or if you didn't get back to them right away, it always leaves a bad taste. So, there are definitely ways that tools that I've implemented to help with that. So we've launched omni-channel support now, which is actually kind of unheard of in access control, right? We make it easy for the customers to find us regardless of where they are, what they're doing, right? If you have a phone, call us. If you can email us. If you can chat us. And we've set it up so each of these channels get you to the right place quicker. So if you're in chat, there's help site article suggestions, and different bots that filter your questions and give you the best answer. If you're on the phone, get you to the right place quicker. Do you need tier 2 right away? Or, is your system down? So you need urgent support. And likewise with email, there's different routings you can put in place so people get to where they want to be or where they need to be quicker.
Got it. Susana?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with what Kat shared. I think it's so important to be where the customer is and be smart about triaging and routing support requests. And you also mentioned, challenges and roadblocks that we face, trying to bring customer service to the forefront of the organization's priorities. And I wanted to share that, very anecdotal. But at Loom, I'm just super, super lucky that we have a leadership team that is, very customer centric. So discussing customer needs is just never an issue. One of our company's core value is to just lead with transparency. And that is literally applied to every decision that we make. So no matter who the team is, what we want to do, just leading with transparency, because we believe that when information is open and accessible, then we're able to make better decisions and faster decisions, which then specifically going back to faster support, referring back to your question, it just means, it may mean that we need more staff. It may mean that we need more efficiency with the current staff, but either way, it can be really, really hard to quantify or show those needs in a meaningful way if we don't focus on the data. And just this morning, like as an example, I was deep in Google spreadsheets, pulling volume data, first reply time, CSATs, all the important KPIs to build an accurate forecast model that would show then my headcount needs for the rest of the year. And this is because the conversation that I'm having with finance just needs to be factual. It has to be driven by data, and it needs to be supported by the goals that the leadership believes in. So leading with transparency there, just making sure everyone is on the same page. So if our goal is to reply to every enterprise customer within a few minutes, or to implement a chat support channel, as Kat was talking about on omni-channel support, headcount is going to look different for each of those options, or if you just want to reply to customers within a few hours, like wildly different. And don't get me wrong, it can be really, really hard to focus on the support team's needs if we don't quantify our impact or show the return of that investment. And there's just many ways that we can do that. We can start by, putting a dollar amount to the impact of support on revenue. So for example, do we have an understanding of how many times the support team is helping customers upgrade? There's a dollar amount to uncover there. Or even, upselling new features or products, as we talked about in the previous question. Are we using data to paint a clear picture of the work that the support team does? Are we bringing anecdotal evidence to the leadership team? Are we, sharing actual customer feedback that influences how the product gets built? All of those things matter a ton. It's not just the numbers, but the numbers do help a lot. So just making sure that we're tracking the right metrics and showcasing the team's performance to the leadership team is incredibly important as well.
Makes sense. I agree. In fact, there's a question that's come. Great question, lovely question, Maripi. I'll put this up to Susana. You mentioned that in Loom, your support is efficient, educational, and human. So how do you define these support pillars?
How do we define efficient, educational, and human?
Efficient, educational, and human. Exactly. What goes into what is efficient, educational, and human?
That is a great question. Thank you for asking that question. But efficient, speed plays into it, but also making sure that we are where the customer is and that we can speak the same language as the customer, that we're accessible, which I believe is also a topic that we'll talk about in a little bit. Educational, it means that if someone comes to us with a question, we also want to educate for other questions. If someone tells us, hey, my video isn't recording, we want to fix that, but also educate to other features, other use cases. Hey, have you noticed how you can use Loom to add a CTA, or you can trim your video to not include this beginning that is a little bit jumbled. And then the last one, human. Loom is all about adding that human element, right? So we're a video company. We record our screen for work communications. We add a little bubble with our face. We're all about bringing, our personalities into work communications that oftentimes are via email or Slack communications. But with Loom, we can just be ourselves and communicate in the way that hopefully, we would in an office environment, but we can do that at scale and asynchronously now, which is awesome. So that's kind of like how we look at the 3 pillars that I described there.
Got it. That sounds good. So this one question I had, and I hope that answered your question, Maripi, and I really encourage everyone in the audience also to ask for the question. Please do go ahead and ask them, and we'll make sure that Susana and Kat answer them for you. And so when you talk about speed, right? How has technology helped solve for speed in service? Have you sort of embraced technology, AI, bots, all of these? How do they play a role in your support processes? Kat, maybe you want to pick that up?
Yeah, so it plays a big role. I wouldn't necessarily say a huge role, simply because it varies depending on the industry, right? I mean, there are a bunch of different tools out there that you can implement to potentially help with speed, but you also really need to know your audience. I know bot and AI is the big thing right now. Everybody wants bot and AI. But if you're servicing, not very tech savvy group of customers, bot and AI might not be well received. So yes, there are definitely tools that we've used and are currently using, bot being one of them, social media support. I know that's everybody is in the social media now. And also, complex routings and rules within our CRM to really help speed up the response process. But we've also tailored it so that, for example, as I mentioned earlier, our B2B clients, we're on site, we're installing, we don't have time for this, we just want to jump on the phone. So we've created, routing specifically for these installers where they can get to someone quicker. We call it priority queuing, so they can basically jump the line. But for B2C, just your average, app user who's maybe just locked out of their gym and just wants to get into their gym, so make it less complex. And hey, maybe it's something you need to reach out to your admin to put that in the app. They can contact their admin, make that process quick and simple for them.
Yeah, exactly. Susana, how do you think about embracing technology?
Yeah, totally. So as Kat mentioned, it really depends on who your customer base is and the type of product that you're supporting. At Loom, we're lucky that we have 13 million users, and we're big believers in automation because it's not easy to support 13 million users. So we have to find ways that help us provide helpful, friendly, efficient support at all times that is efficient to answer. Also, go back to Maripi's question, and no matter if it's via our team of amazing people that we have right now, or even via the product or self-service resources that we have, we need to work smarter, as we've mentioned before, so that we can again reinvest other resources that we have, such as our time. Specifically thinking about how we can help our customers, we just like to focus on our help center, our chatbots. Those are kind of like the 2 customer-facing automations or self-serve resources that we have on right now. We've been able to decrease headcount needs by 2 people just in the first couple of months of implementing our chatbot. And as we train it, we expect it to continue helping us keep the team lean and our customers happy, of course. So we try to automate as many workflows as we possibly can because that directly means less wait time for our customers, which, as we mentioned before, big factor in customer satisfaction, the speed factor, right? And we do that with a chatbot, with keywords that trigger certain responses, and by adding videos in our help center articles, which is a huge help for us, because we find that technology just helps us get ahead and stay ahead, right? So in terms of results, our automation strategy helped us deflect about 40% of support requests with self-serve resources last year. And this was very, very important for us because it allowed us to stay focused on scaling documentation and automation instead of spending a ton of time hiring and onboarding. We kind of like define it as wait and automate. Those are words that I definitely try to go by as much as possible because they help prepare you for the future.
Right, but at the same time, I think it's important to be human as well, and probably do the handoff at the right time so that the customer isn't left frustrated as well, right? I think being smart about that matters a lot.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely.
such a thing as too much automation. So too much of something is never good. And that applies to tools as well.
Yeah. People like fast resolutions, but they don't like resolutions that take them nowhere, right? Or supposed resolutions that take them nowhere.
Right.
Maripi actually has a follow-up question as well. Maybe Kat, you could pick this up. She says that we get a lot of customer feedback and we share it with each team, but I think it's rarely considered by the product team. So what's a more efficient way to share it? For example, should we create a special meeting to discuss it and define a roadmap? How to integrate customer feedback into what the product is supposed to have?
This is a really good question, Maripi, and a lot of experienced leaders go through this, as they scale a team. So to me, it's really, you need to be able to identify trends, right? Because there's going to be a lot of feedback. There's going to be no shortage of that. But at the same time, your product team, they also do not have unlimited resources. So they have to fix issues. They have to put out new features. So they really have to manage their time. So for us to be able to get to the product team and make those interactions impactful, we need to come prepared with data. So when you have feedback, you need to start tracking trends. How many customers are reporting this feedback? Based on that, what's the size of the account? How many users within that account are impacted, or how many total users overall are impacted, right? If this feedback is not addressed, from there, you can then start creating your own priorities to these feedback. And creating a special meeting is definitely a good road. I've done that in previous roles, doing that in current role where I meet directly with product and engineering leaders and bubble up these, customer feedback before they even become an issue. And I've created a tagging system. It's, it's nothing new. It's just a P system. A lot of places use it. So you can incorporate that. So when you go to those meetings, you tell them, hey, this is a P1. So it's super high level. A lot of people are impacted. There's no workaround. So it kind of, you're speaking their language, right? So they understand that more and they'll be able to identify, oh yeah, it's a P1. Yes, let's definitely add that to the roadmap, versus just giving them feedback. And they won't necessarily know what to do with that because they're not in the trenches like us. So they don't know what the impact is.
Got it. I think that's great insights, Kat. And I hope, Maripi, that also help you. Anybody else, if you have questions, please do put them up. I will make sure that they get answered. Meanwhile, there's another very important thing, right? So which I think is something, it's a contentious subject, but what in our research, right, which suggested that speed is the most important factor influencing CSAT scores. So what are your thoughts around that, right? First thing is, I think there are questions around whether CSAT is the most important thing, but yeah. So how do you look at this?
Oh, I'll take this because I have some very strong feelings about this, but I definitely think CSAT is it's a BS metric. Let's just put that out there. Yep, I said it. It's recorded, so it's out there.
It's out there.
It's commonly used, but it's honestly not. As I mentioned earlier, with speed, you can't fake it, right? You're either slow or you're fast. That's it. There's no workaround with that. There's no filters. You're either fast or you're slow. Whereas with CSAT, somebody could be having a bad day and just take it out on your team, regardless of whether they offered the best support or what have you. The customer may just not have liked the answer. So they leave a bad feedback, which affects the CSAT. or maybe it was a very good interaction and the customer just doesn't leave a CSAT at all, which also affects the overall number. So CSAT is it's a very suggestive metric that, you know, you can really have a lot of room for error. So I think response time is a bit more impactful and tells a bit of a real story versus CSAT.
Right. Susana?
Really good point by Katz, or points actually, multiple great points. And I think, you know, like speed definitely helps CSAT. CSAT is an interesting way of measuring happiness for sure. I don't think it paints the full picture. I'm definitely aligned with Kat there. Your support team can do everything right, but they can still get a negative CSAT score, you know, for something that's completely out of their reach. Right. So I'd make sure not to look only at CSAT as an indicator of customer satisfaction, but to just make sure that it's considered in a combination with other metrics. As Kat mentioned, you know, first response time is a great one to consider. But at the end of the day, each team, each product is going to have its own specific set of KPIs that just work best for them. At Loom, we're actually exploring alternative ways to measure customer happiness. We do CSAT right now. But we are researching what the best next KPI is going to be for us, from, you know, maybe customer effort score to making up our own happiness metric in the future. I'm sure that we'll have some news to share about this later this year, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I think that is something that even I've been noticing is around customer effort score becoming a really important aspect of, it's not just here, I've been in multiple conversations, and a lot of instances people are talking about customer effort scores now. So let's see how that plays out, right? I hope that is not a BS metric. But when you report to your organizations, right, at a leadership level, when they look at how satisfied a customer is, do they still consider CSAT as the North Star? And these are inputs that go to that North Star?
I mean, CSAT is not our North Star for sure. I think we prefer to look at number of customers that we actually have helped versus the ones that we couldn't get to. We look at backlog, we look at first response time. We look at CSAT as a secondary metric that fluctuates, you know, like if we can get back to customers quickly, as Kat mentioned, our CSAT tends to be higher. If we can't get back to customers as fast, then our CSAT drops. But the reason why it dropped is directly connected to we're understaffed, or there was a bug or an incident. So things that are outside of, you know, my team's control. So we don't use CSAT specifically as a measure of are we doing great or not great. We look at, you know, quality of tickets. We do reviews. We make sure that the team is trained. We make sure that everyone knows how to do their job, that they can find the information that they need. CSAT is more of a secondary metric that helps us explain what is going on in support. And it's a strong indicator that something else may be wrong that needs to be fixed.
And Maripi, who's almost become our third panelist, maybe I should find a way to pull them in. So a point is not a question, but I also think it's important to determine an internal quality score and review random conversation considering those parameters. So you can look at CSAT and compare it to your concept of quality. That's a suggestion that came in. Thanks for that. I think we are glad that, you know, you've brought in very interesting viewpoints. So thank you for that. So one thing, even at Freshworks, what we've tried to put together is through our customer service platform, we've looked at multiple aspects, right? So what you would have realized over this entire conversation is that speed in customer service is extremely important. It's pretty much, in fact, it's as important as anything else. And even it's not that speed in customer service leads to greater customer satisfaction. In fact, speed in customer service itself is the most important thing to measure, right? And you look at first response times, you look at how quickly you are addressing customers' issues, and that automatically leads to satisfaction. So we can focus on first response time as an important metric, and that itself will automatically determine great satisfaction. Now, how do you do this, right? So what we believe is that it's not just about providing fast service, but it can't be so easily done. And how do you enable that is first is making your service accessible. How are you ensuring that your customers are finding it easy to reach out to you? So are you available on multiple channels? Are you providing messaging support? Are you providing a chatbot? Are you providing self-service? Do you have a knowledge base? Do you have a live chat enabled, right? So all of these are typically immediate support channels that also make your customers feel comfortable and believe that they'll get immediate responses. In fact, if you think of the Amazons and the Ubers of the world, they are heavily self-service focused. And I guess the reason they do it is also because that provides fast service. And which also leads to going automation first, right? I think it's easier said than done. I agree with that entirely, but I think the intent has to be to go automation first. And with the ones that you cannot solve for using an automation first approach, those you should look at figuring out what's the right time to do a handoff to a human, right? And the next is around shifting from reactive service to proactive service. So think of a scenario where, say, you're driving a car and your car is up for service. You are probably not conscious about that, but the company that's provided the car or the service customer service, the car service company can actually be proactive and say that, hey, I think that there are some issues. We are tracking some data around your car and we feel that it's up for service. So that is again something that can be proactively undertaken by the customer service teams. And you can actually embrace automation as well in this, right? So think of say Google sending you an email saying that your storage is going to be out and you need to fix that quickly, right? So that is proactive service. Empower your agents. I think we think that one of the most important things is around empowering agents as much as you empower customers. Empowered agents will result in empowered customers. We very firmly believe in that. And I think being smart about using AI, using canned responses, finding out quick agent assist solutions also are extremely important in providing fast customer service. And of course, the last is around refreshing your metrics, which is probably around what we were discussing earlier in the piece around how we need to look beyond CSAT. We need to start looking at customer effort score, how easy it for customers to reach out to you. And that probably becomes the most critical aspect of measuring service instead of, say, the standard approach of using customer satisfaction. In fact, we've developed a great test around this. We believe that this is the first ever customer service speed test. You should check that out. Just type in Freshworks customer service speed test and you should be able to go in and take the test for yourself. Meanwhile, Susana, Kat, the audience, what do you think resonates most to you? What do you think is the most important thing which will lead to speedy customer service?
I was clicking on the poll and the panelists can't answer the poll. So to me, making your service accessible is at least, in the industry that I'm in, right? So with OpenPath, as I mentioned, it's a very dinosaur industry. Most of the phone numbers are hidden unless you are a paid, you're paying installer. You can't even talk with their customer support. So being a company where our phone number is plastered everywhere, you can email us. Our email is everywhere. You can chat us. You can even message us in social media and somebody will get back to you. That was very important to really get people engaged and know that we really care and we value them. With my startup with Gated, we are still very new. So, putting our name out there is very important. So, that also factors into at which stage your company is in. So if you're very new, your 5 steps may be very different. So for me, it's making us accessible so people know about Gated, so people can reach us easily, so we can answer questions. Automation is not even important at this stage for us, but we want to make sure that we're there and we answer quickly. As your company evolves, your speed, your 5 steps will also evolve, because at that point, you have more customers, you have more agents, hopefully, and your priorities shift. So yeah, all of these are good, but to me, make your service accessible is what resonates to me, and will be for a while. All
right. And the audience, almost 80% of the audience here seems to focus on shifting from reactive service to proactive service. So that's definitely a trend, it looks like. And of course, there is also prioritization being given to refreshing metrics to focus on customer first metrics instead of organization first metrics. That's also something that seems to resonate with the audience. Susana, do you have any thoughts on which one you like the most, or which one do you think is the most important? I don't think it's about what we like. It's about what's
yeah, of course. I think they're all great. As Kat said, like accessibility is a big one for us too. We definitely like to be where our customers are, but like to be 100% honest, we actually haven't been able to offer a support experience that fully aligns with that vision yet. Although it is incredibly important to have a North Star and to build our strategy around that, because no one likes to feel lost when requesting support. No one likes to have to Google how to contact support, or how to contact support for like X company. If your customers have to submit a support request, then we definitely want to make sure that it's a seamless experience. And then of course, there's the other aspect of accessibility too. We want to make sure that we speak the language of the customer, that we have the proper tools to communicate. Sometimes video may be better than text, so we use Loom for that, of course. We try to make sure our communication is as human as possible. And then of course, automation, we talked about this before. It's definitely a big one for me. But I should make an edit here. Automation that does not feel like customers are dealing with a robot. Automation that feels smart, that feels helpful. If companies want to do automation right, it needs to be personalized. And once again, in our case, by adding video, we can add a human element to an interaction that, you know, otherwise might feel a little bit dry. You know, it's a yes or no type of deal. So it's really important for us that we create content that is impactful, and it's our opportunity to educate and to use our own product for that as much as possible. But all of the sentences are great. You know, shifting from a reactive to proactive is huge. Like that is the dream. That is a blue sky scenario. No one wants to be, you know, fighting fires. We want to be ahead of the curve. Refreshing metrics, totally needed from time to time, just to make sure that you're staying current and ahead. And of course, you know, proactive again. But actually, one thing there that is amazing is actually empowering agents. And I think that sometimes that goes a little bit unnoticed, but it is so important to focus on continued education, to make sure that your agents have the tools they need to do their jobs, and they don't have any fear or anxiety of not knowing where to find that information.
Exactly.
So if you empower your team, you're halfway there in terms of being successful, but it's massive. That one is definitely massive.
I completely agree. I think it is important to have empathy towards your agents as much as to your customers. So great. In fact, there's something that I wanted to add is that in terms of empowering agents itself, one of the things that we are also looking at even our platform, customer service platform, is to ensure that we provide omni-channel service. It's not just important to be available across channels, but it's also important to have a single timeline, for example, right? So if customers, you might provide the opportunity for customers to contact you through messaging, through email, through chat, but on the agent side, they shouldn't necessarily be burdened of having to check every channel. And it's extremely important to place a single timeline where customers can, where agents can actually look at queries and answer them. For them, it should all be a single view, whereas for the customers, it should be a multiple approach channel. So I think the omni-channel support, which Kat touched upon earlier today, also, I think, spoke to that. So while you have multi-channel, you should also probably ensure that you are omni-channel, right? So that is also extremely important. So before we close out, I think we're almost towards the end of the session. We want to thank you, both Kat and Susana, as well as the audience, for staying back and staying through the conversations. So there's just one quick poll that we wanted to run. We provide free consultations around customer experience and customer service to the audience. So if any of you are looking forward to going through the demos, we'd love to show that to you. So we'll just give you about 30 seconds to answer that. All right, that sounds okay. I think thanks a lot for your responses. Anyone in the audience, if you have any questions, we could even ask that, or we could just close the conversation in some time. We'll just wrap this up with comments from Susana and Kat. Anybody in the audience has any questions? Did you like the session? Is there something that you would like to know more, or any topics that you want to address us to address in the future? We'd love to do that. I'm sure Susana and Kat would be equally excited too.
Thank you, anonymous attendee.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, I think with that, pretty much we come towards the end of the session. Thanks again to all of you for being part of this conversation. I'm sure all of you found this conversation enriching, and we hope that you carry back insights from this and implement this in your organization. So if there's anything that you want to know, please feel free to connect with all of us, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have even later. Right. So thanks once again. And Susana and Kat, any closing comments as we wind down?
Yeah, well, firstly, I definitely want to thank everybody here. Thank you, Freshworks, for the opportunity, as well as Support Driven. To me, I know we've talked a lot about how to be fast, all the different tools and tips and tricks. And what I want to put out there to all the leaders who are watching or will be watching this is, don't be afraid to try and fail, right? Because there's not one secret formula that applies to every support organization. Every team is unique, every company is unique, and the solution that works for one may not work for the other. So try and see what works best for you, for your customers, and most especially your team, and improve on that. So words of wisdom, and thank you for watching.
I 100% agree with Kat, and thank you so much, team at Freshworks and Support Driven, for having me here today. I think that, just to go with the topic of this conversation about growing with speed and quality in 2021, and just 2021 being the year of growth and change, I think that we're kind of like in the cusp of everything changing, really, when it comes to access to talent. Going global is so much easier now. So take advantage of that. Hire teams that are international. They bring so much to the table: diversity of thought, different types of experience. Customer expectations are changing. There's multiple channels. Kat talks Omnichannel so much, and she's 100% right. Be where the customer is. There's less face-to-face. I think experience has shifted from in store to online. So we must adapt to it. And exactly. There's just a ton of trends that are going to be very, very exciting towards the end of 2021, I think. And
That's
thank
awesome.
you again for having me.
Thank you, Susana. Thank you, Kat, and thank you all in the audience for staying back and and listening into the entire conversation. We loved hosting Kat and Susana. Thank you both for your insights and words of wisdom. And we have a clear takeaway that came through from Kat, which is that CSAT is a bullshit metric, right? So that is my takeaway.
He said it. I at least abbreviated it.
All right. So thank you, Kat and Susana, and thank you everyone in the audience for your time. We look forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
Thank you. Have a good day,
everybody.
Right. Bye.
Take care.